In this video, I add heated mirrors to a second gen Xterra. I go the slightly more difficult route of removing the glass section and replacing it with a heated glass section. This requires opening the mirror, running your wires in there, so forth. You can save a little time by buying mirror assemblies that have the heated panel already inside them. It's just going to cost you a little bit more. So either way, this video should cover you for both methods. If you have any questions, just leave a comment down below. How we're going to power these heated mirrors is that we're going to use the IPDM. That's this control box right here. This box will provide power for our mirrors when we have the defrost button active. Inside of it, you're going to use this plug, this particular spot on the plug. Now, you're going to need to find a way to get a wire inside this box. The problem is the box is pretty well sealed. You could cut it or drill through it if you wanted to, but I found an easier way. You just slide up on this. This little trap door goes down there with that main wire harness. So that's our point of exit. We're on the wire. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run the wire up to the firewall in its own run of wire loom, and I'm just going to run it parallel to this existing harness here. To the driver's side, on this automatic transmission unit, we're going to tap into that grommet right there. That grommet, it's real easy to pull out. You just pull it out your fingernails. And you'll drill through it. Just poke a little hole in it, you're going to run your wire through that. That will lead into the cabin. Where that is in the cabin, it's gonna be about right here beneath this felt. Simply just poke your screwdriver through from the other side, or you could pull the felt back, run it through that way as well. So that's how you're gonna get power from the IPDM into the cab. Using 18 gauge, or in this case 16 gauge wire, you want to cut it to length. So start at IPDM, working along existing wire harnesses across the firewall, over to the grommet, and then about an extra foot inside the cab of the vehicle. That puts us at 9 feet of length. I am cutting about 7.5 feet of wire loom that's going to run parallel to the wire loom that we're traveling with. So we got a 1/4 inch female spade connector. This is rated for 16 to 22 gauge. We're going to modify it by cutting off a little bit of this extra plastic before we crimp in our wire. With the help of a skinny screwdriver to help push that in, finally got that spade connector installed in there. Should plug right in now. With the battery reconnected, let's check that we get voltage through the IPDM when we turn on our rear defroster. We're going to run that over to a voltmeter. We are grounded on a bracket on the engine. I have pretty much no voltage going through right now. I have the key in the ignition set to on. We're going to activate the rear defroster. and we're going to check our voltage. That's exactly what we want to see. That's what's going to power our mirrors. So we're going to lift up our little door and we're going to feed our wire through there. Alright, so we have the wire coming out, tucked down under, and it just hangs out right there with that original wire harness. Kind of comes through and into the wire loom I have installed. Got our loom wrapped over the wire. Got some zip ties routing this around. Try to make it look tasteful. We're going to come around to this hole where we're going to run it through there. So it looks like I have a little bit too much loom. I'll trim that back just a little bit and bring it into the footwell. Alright, so removing the grommet from the firewall. We're going to poke a hole in it. There's our hole. All right, we want to make sure we cover this with electrical tape again. Alright, so we fixed the wire loom on that wire that pulled out. Just got to press in the grommet and we should be done with everything under the hood. Okay, we are now secure. Alright, so we'll need to remove the door panel. So that's what we're dealing with. Alright, next we're going to remove the control piece. Simply going to pry. Okay. Should come out like that. There we go. Has snaps here, 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 and here. Alright, so next step, we're going to remove this trim piece right here. Simply just pry it off. Just like so. And then we need to remove the plate back here as well. it's going to expose that screw as well as this one here and one right here in the door. So now we're going to remove these 3 screws. These 2 are Phillips. This one you have to use a socket. They're all 3 a 10mm socket. So we'll start removing. Now we can begin popping out the door panel. Wedge in there. And just pry. Alright, with that, should be able to lift up and out. And there you have it. Alright, so with our door panel off, we need to access a wire harness for the power mirrors and disconnect that. So this got some tacky kind of a tar or silicone type material. Peel it back. This connector right here is holding the wire harness that we need on the back side of that metal. So grab some needle nose pliers, or you can pry this with a screwdriver, but this has to come out. Alright, so with that pushed in, should be able to pull down and access the wire harness. There's a tab you push in, and it should just pop right out. Alright, that is what goes to our mirrors. Alright, so next we want to remove these 3 plastic clips so we can remove this plastic panel. We'll need to do that so we can get to the hardware that holds the mirror to the door. So these little indentions, you might be able to get your fingernails in them and pull out. You may need to get a screwdriver for that. There we go. Alright, this panel needs to be pried off. This panel is actually really brittle. It kind of feels and sounds like it's going to want to snap if you pull too hard on it, so we're going to go carefully pry around the edges on that. Okay. There wasn't much holding this one on. Okay. Looks like one adhesive pad on this particular one. So, and a fastener right here. I guess it would be right there. Or with the side view mirror, should be able to pop this out. You want to pull out from the bottom. So, see what kind of pry tool it takes for this. I think we got it. Yeah. How this is set up is it pivots on these. So it lifts up. And then these right here are the snaps that you're prying to break free. This exposes 3 nuts. Looks to be 10mm. They are 10mm. I'm going to support the mirror from the back side. Alright, so with the 3 nuts on the back side of this removed, we now have a loose mirror. The only thing in there holding in is a wire harness, which we've already disconnected. So I should be able to work on it and get that free. Before we start hooking in the new heated mirror and running a wire to the mirror, we need to get our wire run through the door. And through here, so we can get under there. To make things easier, what I've done is I have removed the speaker simply by removing 4 10mm screws. They look like this. Once you remove them, this adhesive foam will hold the speaker on. Just simply pry it out with a screwdriver or a pry tool. You will then disconnect this little connector that's attached to the speaker and disconnect this wire harness from the speaker. What this enables you to do is put your hand up in there and reach the inside of this. All right, so you're also going to need to remove the trim piece that runs along here. You simply just stick a screwdriver in there, or you can even sometimes grab it. You just simply pull up. All right, then next there'll be this kick panel. It's held in by a metal tab here, a tab right there, and right there is a plastic kind of a peg or snap, if you will. Looks like that. And just kind of twist it until it comes off, and then you should be good. And then what that'll let you do is reach your hand up in there. You can reach the back side of this. Now, you're gonna need to run wire into this. It's gonna need to go down and come through. You're probably not gonna have much luck fishing it through unless you have some sort of like one of those little fishing line devices or whatever that electricians have. I'm gonna make things easier by just simply prying the boot back from the chassis and prying the boot back from the door. So that should let me work that wire through there a little easier. All right, so I found the best way to do this would be to get a piece of hanger wire. See right up there, a little bit of electrical tape on the end so we're not tearing the boot with the sharp edge. But it goes just straight up. So we got top of the coat hanger up here, comes out the bottom. We've got our wire taped to it. We're gonna hook some pliers up to the top. We're gonna pull straight up. All right, so with the wires pulled through the top part of the boot, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna feed this through this hole in the chassis to come out into the footwell. So we got wires feeding into there. They come out under the dash. We got this part. We're just going to tuck it into the door. I'll probably stick my hand up in here to grab it and see about a way of fishing it up to there. These coming through the door, I'm going to press these back in so where they're sealed up tight again. So to pull wire up here, I'm actually using one of these things. I think it'll be the first time I've actually legitimately had a use for this. There we are. All right, at this point with the wires coming up to the mirror hole, we're gonna need to feed them through the foam into here, and they need to come out of here. Does not want to seem to feed in just by brute force. So we're actually going to disassemble this hinge. On that, there's a piece of plastic that's just held on with some adhesive. Gently peel that back. You'll have 3 T25 Torx. We'll remove those next. With the Torx removed, the hinge should just come apart now. Alright, so it'll have the wire intact. Should be able to feed it through a little easier now. With the wires run through the foam, into the base, from the base into the mirror. At this point, I have just a small amount of slack. I've got the mirror on it. I'm going to run the Torx screws back into the mirror to attach the mirror to the base, and then we will secure the mirror to the door. With Torx, we're going to feed that back in and secure it from the inside. Okay, you don't want to drop these nuts in there. I don't know you'd have very much luck getting them outside of the door panel. The torque spec on these, I do know they were a little snug. Okay. Alright, so we were feeding 16 gauge wire through the door. However, I wanted to reduce that down to a smaller gauge wire. I want to say this is 20, it might be 18. It's a lot more pliable, bendable than this 16 gauge. I didn't want to have real thick, beefy wires plugged into the back of the mirror. The reason because these wires, the 16 gauge would actually be thicker and tougher than the little pins that they're going to connect to. I don't want these pins bending, breaking off. I've also hooked up some special spade connectors. They're a lot smaller than your standard ones that you get in most kits, but that will fit perfectly on there. Sealed up, so they shouldn't come in contact and short circuit with each other. So you may want to insert the key to apply power to the mirror switches and adjust this to tilt your mirror down and out. It'll give you a good angle to start inserting this mirror. So we've got everything connected. Got our wires clipped in. And what we're going to do is we're going to hook in these top hooks. They go straight up into here. The bottom snaps will snap right onto here. So we're going to go up. Once it's up in there, you're going to snap the bottom in. Make sure we don't get our wires behind it. And if you got stick adhesive pads, remove the wax paper and let's give it a shot. Seems to be pretty easy to look at it from underneath. I think that's in. Alright, so we will grab the keys and see about doing some mirror adjustments. we needed to reinstall the speaker before we put the door panel on. If you're handy enough to get this shoved in here behind this plastic guard, by all means go for it. If not, you can take the 4 screws out of there. I believe they're either 8mm or 5/16. I used a 5/16, and that should let you pop the speaker out of the housing. So that should be able to let us route that through there. Reattach the harness. And then reinstall the speaker back into the mount. You want to take this clip, pop it back into there. Alright, so we got the door speaker installed. Now we can start attaching other stuff. Alright, so now we're ready for the door panel. Just take note of where the snap locations go in the various holes in the door. So this right here is going to hang behind here. We're grabbing power window wire harness. Alright. So we're making sure the top part is in place, and we're going to start snapping this in. Just like that. We're done. Alright, take these 2 screws. These 2 screws go on either side of the inside door handle. Again, that's a 10mm socket we're using. Snug it down a little bit more. Not too tight. Lastly, got a bolt. Threads in right there. Just like that. Alright, we've got this little dish piece. Snaps right in. Next, we have this piece. And it's going to go like this. There we go. Alright, and next we're going to reconnect power window switches. And just snap in. First we have this elbow rest. Snap in, and we're done. At this point, we have the new heated mirror installed, the door panel, reinstalled. Our weather strip boot reinstalled. And I have the wires fed through into the cab. Got a few feet of this wire wrapped in loom. What we're going to do is we're going to route them over here. They'll come out over here. And then I'm going to shove them under there, and they'll come out into the driver's side footwell. All right, so back on the driver's side, we have the wires coming around. We're just zip tying the loom in place. We're going to bring it over here. We're going to join in with the positive, comes from the IPDM, the positive from the door, and we're going to take our grounds from left and right, and we're going to ground them on that bolt right there. All right, so we have the passenger mirror wires, positive and negative, routes around there. And right here, it meets up with the driver's side, positive and negative. Inside this joint, the negative wires join together and ground to a 14mm bolt right there. The driver's side and passenger side positive wires join together right here. I have a disconnect harness right here, and of course go through the firewall to the IPDM. I'm currently testing them, making sure I'm not blowing any fuses. After about 3 minutes, it is warm to the touch on both sides. So I think that pretty much wraps everything up. Just clean up our mess and put our kick panels back in. Put our door jamb trim back in. And of course, reinstall the IPDM box cover as well. Also, you want to make sure your driver's side window and passenger side window have the full travel of up and down and aren't catching on any of the wires that you have in the door panels. So, thanks for stopping by the garage. See you next time. So I would love to show a video or a time lapse of the heated mirrors in action, but they don't seem to want to frost over. It's like they have a hydrophobic coating or something on them. And I've been using these for over 2 months now. They do work. You can feel heat when you put your hand against them after they've been running, but I just can't get any sort of ice or frost to form on these for whatever reason. So I'm thinking there's just got to be some sort of coating that has come on these from the factory. I mean, it is enough to ice over. Pathfinder frosts over. Just for whatever reason, these don't want to give me the time-lapse shot of them in action.